Today is Tuesday, August the 14th. This is the City of Lovington regular meeting for Planning and Zoning Commission. Roll call.
Miss Betty Price?
Here.
Sorry. Member Scott Bull?
Yes, ma'am. Here.
Member Joel Gomez?
Here.
Member Brian Cooper?
Here.
Member Dave Rouser?
Here.
Member Brenda Garcia?
Here.
And Vice
No, he's chair.
Chairman Randy Pettit?
Trash man. Thank you. Approval of agenda. James, is there any, Crystal, any changes to the agenda? Take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Consideration of minutes from Tuesday.
We don't got him.
We don't have them?
They were emailed.
They were in the
July
email.
10th.
Did everybody get a chance to review the email?
Yes, I did. I'll make the motion.
Have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioners report to staff. Before we do that, do you mind if we introduce the new P&Z members?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, well, we have Brian Cooper, who's joined us, and we also have Scott Bolt, who is also joining us. Mr. Bolt is filling out Ron Humphrey's term. Ron resigned just due to time commitments, and then the commission appointed Brian last night at the meeting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. Commission and staff report. Anything from the last commissioner meeting?
I was not at the last commission meeting, but they did go with all you guys' recommendations on, what was it, the encroachment
Yes.
of that structure. They went with you guys'. And it passed, so.
Okay. All right, public comment. Anything not listed on the agenda that somebody's here to talk about? Action items. Preliminary subdivision.
Do you have it?
It's right there. You just got to turn it on the side. Turn it on the side where it says on. Other side.
I'm trying.
Like there's 6 sides to that thing.
There was 2. All right. This is the Belvedere subdivision. This is a preliminary. So the final won't go into effect until after the utilities and all are put in. So what we're looking at is over here by 13th, just south of where 13th comes onto Jefferson Avenue. The owners are wanting to subdivide this property into, actually it'll be 6 lots because the remaining lot will be behind these that are street side adjacent. And he wants to be able to sell the lots off. He won't keep it as like a mobile home park or nothing. He will sell those individual lots. It is a Zone B, so mobile homes would be acceptable there on those lots or side-built homes.
So are they going to do this before they start the road construction on?
Yes. Yeah, because they will have to go, actually the sewer and the water are all right there on the northwest or northeast corner, and they'll go right into the street and hit those manholes that are right there.
Is that information in our packets that I'm not finding?
These weren't there.
We have, we weren't providing an electronic copy prior to it. We do have hard copies of those blown up.
Can I
over
see
there.
those?
Mm-hmm.
leave an alleyway all the way around it for access to those utilities. And with the alley having the 45-degree angle at the back side, because we have so many alleys that don't have that, we have issues with our utility trucks getting in there.
So is this basically for the water and sewer? Is that what we're talking about today?
Yeah, and the size of the lots, which they're appropriate for that zone. What you're seeing in the center is the allowable space of building that could be built there. It has the setbacks all the way around in the hashed area. So in the hashed area, they wouldn't be able to build except for an accessory structure in the backyard.
Wyatt, you're good without having that water line looped?
No, the water line will have to loop.
Okay, so
We
the
did tell
details
them
on-
that already.
Looping a water line, what is that?
It would have to be a continuous loop going back into the main or going back into itself. It would have to do a complete loop, the water line.
That way it would maintain pressure all the way around?
It maintains pressure, and a dead-end water line tends to sand up and
Okay.
cause issues down the road.
If you don't loop it, you bet it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Through that alley? Yeah.
Does the sewer tie in through the alley also, or does that go straight out the front of the properties?
It would come around from the southwest side to the east and then back up. And the sewer does not have to loop.
The sewer goes right down Main Street though, doesn't it? Or Jefferson, right?
Yes, that's where it would tie in. The 42-foot area over on the other side is for a later date. He plans to build his own home in the back part of that. Is all he said he might do with the back portion of that property. So that is for his private dedicated easement.
And I didn't check the numbers. How big of lots are there? The 6,500 square feet? Isn't that our allotment, 6,500?
Not in the B zone.
Yeah,
Because they look pretty tight. Does it show that
They're
from there?
50 by 140. So that's what,
55.
Oh,
Okay. Now you're gonna make me do math, right?
I had it wrote down.
So he's just gonna saw the
there's
front.
7,000
7,000
square feet.
square feet, there we go.
Yes, which is appropriate for even an 8.
So he's selling off
Yeah.
his front part.
Okay, so they have a lot
Perfectly
that's,
sized. That's what I said, their size
I
and
think
their
so.
setbacks
it
are
would,
all
but
in the zone
in
requirements.
perspective to the rest of the green
So, Crystal,
zone.
this over here is a road?
It's just an easement at this point. It's just,
Oh,
it's attached to the other track at the back of the property.
so you have a 20-foot easement for the alley. What's the other 42.04 feet?
That is for his private drive to access his property on the back half of that.
If you look on the right,
So,
the picture.
Yeah.
I'm actually not a fan of a subdivision and
So what it does is that gives him access to come down along here to access this back half of the property.
yeah,
The road
I
gonna
follow
be
what
under
we're
there.
doing and
Where's the
so
road gonna be in?
help me understand why this isn't
So
described, both lots aren't, the initial subdivision and the second one aren't described separately on this plat. Why they're not broken up?
I mean, as far as the individuals in the houses. who's on it?
Do we need to have them list that as lot 1 back there? Is that what you're saying?
But it shows as lot 6.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is there a second sheet to this? Okay.
There's some definitions here on this. Actually, this is just the survey
Yeah.
points,
Okay, all right.
destinations.
That's the one you
Record.
understand
Yeah.
there.
I happen to know the company that did this. I'm trying to figure out what in the heck were we thinking?
Who was the engineer?
So we break up
And that was another point I wanted to make, were we going to make them do the individual curb cuts for each lot prior? Like when they're doing the utilities, make those curb cuts, or are they gonna do the individual owner does those curb cuts once it's purchased?
Why have them do it now before?
Yeah, you wouldn't know which side the garage is gonna be
Yeah.
on.
Yeah,
Unless you've already got it planned out.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
why most of them they don't do curb cuts until it's sold individually.
Yeah, we're gonna have a new street there. Probably all one of these days, we're gonna have a new street there.
And the owner's representative is here if you guys had any questions.
As far as they're gonna be sold, land is gonna be sold for houses?
It can be
Permanent
sold
houses.
mobile homes or houses, because it's a B zone, so
They can put either one,
they can put either one on those lots.
but it most likely have to be on single wides if they put a trailer on there.
There's enough area for a double wide to fit too.
You think so?
We have double wides on lots that size.
On 50-foot wide?
Because most of the time your double wides, unless you're getting a really long one, they're only 32-foot long.
Was it 5 foot or 10 foot from the side of the house to the property line?
They'd have to turn it this way.
It's 5 foot from the property line, but in the mobile home ordinance, you're supposed to be 15 foot away from another mobile home or another
But if
structure.
it's not zoned as a mobile home,
But
Then
it
they
is.
only have the 10-foot
then
distance.
they only need the 10 foot.
So it's just the 5 on each side.
So, that's the 30-foot dedication. That's the new description slide.
I'm trying to figure out what this was. I guess that's the pin, you think?
Curve, center of the. Okay.
Good pipe. I hate to go a house on a 50-foot wide lot.
Anybody else want to see the description?
Pass me the description. This is the only language I understand.
So, under the staff summary, the last line says, approval for a new subdivision consisting of 5 lots, but there's 6 not shown
Yeah,
on the
there is
plat.
6 lots, yeah.
Okay.
Does that lot 6 have to be specified, or is it already specified by its
It
boundaries?
is shown on there as lot 6, it's just not described.
Yeah, so if it's not described, does it count
Well-
still because it's bordered? By other- other
It's
properties?
described by all the other pieces of it, it's just not described on the document.
So do I need to have them add that on the document?
I need to go back and review. Kate, is there a reason why the, lot 6 isn't described?
Second page.
Uh-huh.
If I'm not mistaken, whenever we asked to do the description, we said, I think the answer we got was that since it's going to be in a plat and since it's going to be a subdivision, there is no need for a description.
Okay.
At that time, we didn't ask any more questions. So, is there supposed to be a description of that?
I don't know. I'll talk to Mr. Hicks about it. Just make sure before the final plat's approved. Fire services has looked at it?
Yes. fire hydrant on the corner of, on that northeast corner of 13th and Jefferson, where it's fire hydrant.
Okay. So we have a recommendation to approve the subdivision as shown with the change for the water line loop. I will not be part of this vote, so somebody else needs to call for the vote.
Okay, so when they do tie in at some point with building the lot in the back, they'll tie into the back of that center loop? Or not center loop, but the water loop you were talking about?
I would assume so, based on where everything else is at.
Yeah.
That would make the most sense. Yes, Kate.
I would like to add, I don't know if you have the most updated plat. Is this, I don't know if they have this, that shows where the tie is to the water line.
Well, this is the sewer line here.
Yes, and then this is the water line, that's what they're asking for, right? The water tie-in?
Oh, that's to each individual lot. So they're talking about where there's water, when it comes here and comes here, we can't have the dead end. It has to either come back and come in, or come back all the way around and come here.
Okay,
So it's gotta go back into the main line somehow. The water's gotta continuously loop.
okay.
On the-
Do you
on the
want that
sixth
shown
lot.
on the plat?
Yeah, that would be part of the that's the staff recommendation. I have no idea what they're gonna,
That was water
End up
department's
approving.
recommendation
Yeah.
too.
so, that would be my recommendation if we did it.
Which recommendation?
Just make sure that the water line that
Just like
ties
it
in at
says.
13th Street, when it goes all the way around, ties back into Jefferson, the long line on Jefferson.
Okay.
So then it's completely looped.
So my question is if we approve the 5, does that automatically mean the 6th lot is approved? Or does it need to be site?
However a motion is made, should include the change on the verbiage to 6 lots.
So we are going, what you're suggesting though is that the 6th lot would be acceptable as plotted right now?
Right.
Okay. There's no further surveying or anything else that would need to be done?
It's described on there
Okay.
in Kate's right with respect to
All
that.
right. I didn't know I'm not familiar with survey, but just curious if that needed to be further specified in any way. So, well, I'd make the motion that where's the,
So with no recommendation.
I'm all right. I'm in the wrong spot. This one right here. Recommendation. So we're making a recommendation for the water line loop or for the plotting?
Everything is
Your
okay.
motion.
My motion. Okay.
If you're of the opinion that everything's on there the way that it has to be, and that the city has reviewed it appropriately, you are approving the preliminary plat. And you're going with staff recommendations, you're approving the preliminary plat as presented with the exception of the water line loop, requiring a water line loop back onto Jefferson, or back up, yeah.
Well, that's what it says in the recommendation, that it taps back in. There's 2 taps.
Yes, it's just not shown on the drawing.
Yeah. So I would make the motion that we approve the recommendation as specified by city personnel, and that we accept the plats as denoted, shown. Does that count? I didn't mess up the language like I did the last time?
James, you think that covers it?
Repeat the motion.
Okay.
You're basically,
I'm going to say, all right, I recommend, or I make a motion to approve with documentation change for the water line loop into Jefferson Avenue main line, thus having 2 taps into Jefferson Avenue main line and taps for connection to water meters to the back of each lot with 1-inch polycopper tubing size, and leading caps, stub ups for new connections, sewer line dead end to be moved to the west 25 foot or more with a manhole or clean out at the end, making all sewer taps to each property, and that we accept the plating as presented. And I don't know whatever the reference is to those drawings of all
Belvedere
six,
subdivision.
of all six
Oh, 6 lots.
6 lots.
6 lots. Did that cover it?
I think so.
But
And that does include the water loop, the way you have it worded.
yes.
Because I didn't understand that meant a water loop. I just knew it had 2 taps. I could have put 2 right side by side, you know.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Brenda?
Okay.
All opposed?
Next.
Will you put me down as abstaining?
Yes.
Okay, next action item, variance and 3 foot 10-inch encroachment for carport at 715 South numbered street.
Third Street.
Number RD street. Go for it.
Oh, I didn't know you had a motion yet.
No, we don't.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion to,
Approve or deny variance.
approve or deny the variance.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
There you go. All right.
Okay, so, 715 South Third, we had a carport installed, prior to permitting, but, it's encroached in the easement. The easement there is large, very large. It's, almost 24 foot from the back of the curb into the dirt and the grass before it's the property line. So they didn't know they were encroaching when they put it up. The owner of the property is okay with the renter of the property having the carport there, as long as the city approves the variance for no setback on a carport and the 3 foot, 10-inch encroachment. The carport, the owner says, the owner of the carport and the mobile home, he rents the space, the land from Miss Van Cleef. And he will remove that structure when he moves that mobile home from that space.
When is he moving the mobile home?
Huh?
When is he moving the mobile home?
He doesn't, there's no plans to right now. It's just, he doesn't own this property, so he had to have the property owner's permission, and he did have, the owner's permission. We talked about moving the carport back more, but, the owner of the property, spent a lot of money on fences for that property and doesn't want fence damage by tearing it down to move that carport.
Why is the easement so large?
It's an 80-foot easement on 3rd Street, and we have many, many issues all down that road because I don't think most people think it's about a 60-foot easement.
So right away, not an easement.
We have given encroachments in the past on this same street.
Encroachments where and for what?
There's actually a carport just a block and a half north of this that was given an encroachment. There are carports, which this Google Earth picture, or this is, we took this, me and James went out and took this with the drone. The yellow line's the property line approximately.
Does the drone automatically put in the property line?
No, we had somebody with yellow spray.
James gets to do that.
We had a guy with yellow spray paint.
Like they do in the football game, right? For the first
But
time.
that house right across the street, his front doorstep is actually right on the easement too. I mean, we have several issues on 3rd Street. Well, there's many streets in town where we say there's an 80-foot right-of-way, but people have encroached on that for years. Many places in town.
Is the carport secured in any fashion?
Yes, it is. It was staked down by New Mexico standards of the staking process for those metal structures.
So like you just go get the fence stakes at Kmart and stake it down?
No, not fences. They're the very large, what they call them, hurricane stakes? Something like that? Yeah.
If they're easy enough to remove, and, or if should they?
Well, you can remove it with a little bit of work, yeah.
It's gonna take a tornado to get it up off the ground.
Yeah.
So a little wind blow ain't gonna hurt it.
Our 69-mile-hour winds aren't gonna.
Or hurricane winds ain't gonna move.
Did you have any questions for the owner of the carport or the owner of the property? They are both there.
Out of curiosity, is if the carport were turned sideways, would it meet the encroachment?
No, because it's actually a square,
Okay, so it's 21
so
foot
it
square?
would still
Okay.
be.
I wasn't sure if it was just a little bit
No,
narrow.
I already looked at that too. No,
Okay.
it is a square. It's 21 by 21, and if you turned it, it's still gonna be right where it's at.
So that carport's right up against the fence?
It is against the fence of the property, yeah, for in between the parking area and the mobile home yard. It is the appropriate 5-foot space on this side.
Will you list out the criteria for approval of a variance?
Approval of a variance.
Yeah.
Uh,
What are the criteria?
What else? Criteria for a variance, it's not a topographical error, which is supposed to be for a variance. It was created by the renter of the property, so it doesn't meet the criteria really for a variance.
Wasn't there something about hardship in there too?
There's a,
Mhm.
yeah, there's,
Yeah, does it create a financial hardship?
Uh-huh.
And of course, at this point, all he could do is take it down and store it, and, you know, paying for a carport you can't use is,
Ouch.
that's kind of hard on some people, yes. This could be considered a financial burden.
actually the bottom of the tin on the side of this thing is taller than the fence. It could actually be moved back 3 foot 10 inches, and a car could still fit in there without getting wet.
We'd have to move that fence, and the owner of
So
the
you can
property.
pick it up and set it over the
Well, no,
fence.
because it has solid,
It has
a
solid
solid
steel
strap at the
runners
bottom.
on the
You would have
bottom.
to cut, and that would mess with the integrity of the structure. You'd have to cut that steel beam that runs, because the steel beam runs on the
That's
edge
still on
the whole way,
ends.
where it's connected together.
Is it welded or bolted together on the bottom?
It's folded together.
So you could unbolt it, lift it up, slide it underneath?
You still have, you couldn't because it's a solid beam
Understand.
on the bottom. You'd have to cut the
It's a chain
bottom.
link fence. You
to
can
go-
unroll the fence, you could roll the fence up, put it, move it back and roll the fence back out.
No,
Owner doesn't want the
Chain link
fence.
The owner doesn't want the
does not
fence
want the fence
to
messed
be messed with.
Okay. So you don't want any kind of encroachment on the fence?
I don't want anything that will make the fence less sturdy than it is right now because of, you know, the wire and stuff that runs.
On the bottom to hold
On
it
the
tight,
bottom.
the tension?
Can I say something else?
Sure.
This is Paula Van Cleve, property owner.
Even Crystal was surprised that there is an 80-foot easement up here. Most of us believe that it's 60 foot. So I don't have a problem with where he has it. And I'm assuming there are no neighbors that have a problem with it because there's no one here but me and Mr. Mr. Dominguez who purchased the carport. And as far, there's still, what, better than 19 feet to the curb. Just to the curb. So it's not like his carport or even his vehicles are gonna be in the way of a sidewalk if you ever get a sidewalk put in there. Because y'all still have 19 feet to the curb and then you have whatever from the curb to the center on my side. So there's sufficient room to allow him to have a variance for that 3 feet, 10 inches and still not be in any way of any utility work or sidewalks or any of that stuff. You have any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
And if the city requires use of that easement, then it would be removed. But
That's usually what we state in an encroachment.
Right.
When you issue an encroachment, we state that the structure would have to be removed if the city has ever needed that
Right.
area of the easement.
okay.
In the final documents, the city's not liable for any damages or the landowner owns all damages. Any other questions for city staff or stand for a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the variance with the stipulations. It comes down when he moves.
Yes. It has to come down, his house won't come out until it's done.
That's a good.
And there's no, well, I've already called for much. Okay, last question. Okay, go for it.
With the stipulation that it has to be removed. And if the city needs it or requires the use of it, it comes down.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Questions? If there are none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say aye, or no?
No.
That would be me.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
It'll try to go in front of the commission.
Yeah, it still goes before the city commission. We have to
Yes,
get their
ma'am.
approval too. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
We understand that. Will it be on the next?
Yes.
Okay.
Annexation of tracts for commercial zone.
Okay, so what we have here is Petroplex acidizing. They've been having to do some issues with banking and so forth and so on. They had to get some zoning letters from me and found out that their back portion of the properties here are in the ETZ and they are R2, which those trucks and all that are not allowed in R2. So in order for them to get their proper paperwork done for their end of it, they needed to annex this in as commercial property with the city, into the city limits.
Why didn't they just go for a variance and blend with ETZ before?
Takes longer, a lot longer.
More property in the city.
And the city needs to annex in more properties.
Okay.
So they already own this portion, this little lot back here, and this over here. And all of these are their commercial properties with city limits already. So they're just asking to annex
So,
these two lots, these two tracts as commercial city property.
do we have a motion and everything, so I can ask questions, or?
You can still ask questions.
Okay.
There's no question.
So they don't own that land?
They do.
Yes,
They
they
do
do.
own the land. So when they purchased the land, wasn't there any kind of site, as far as letting them know, just like we looked at with this last property?
Probably when they purchased it, that probably wasn't available. They
Would
just
be-
didn't dig hard enough, because, I mean, it was available, it's, the ETZ and the code had both been there since the 70s. Am I correct on that, please?
I mean,
But-
this is just, it's just a question of curiosity on my part. I personally would just soon annex it and help them get their, you know, that's not a problem for us.
No.
But I was just curious why it wasn't notated or they were aware of it before.
I have no clue why it wasn't done before.
I was just hoping there would be a story.
Any clue on that? Why? No. I do have a larger version of their properties, their tracks up here with the secondary page on all the descriptions, if you need that.
Remind me where this is located at on Main
Okay,
Street?
if you look right
It's
here
right
is the
beside the vet
animal
clinic.
shelter. Do you know where the animal shelter is?
Oh, that's where I was, did that used to be Ferguson's old yard?
No.
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 Okay, then
This is the
It
top of
was,
the cheese plant right here.
okay, all right, I'm with you.
And then
Premium.
this is the animal shelter.
Mhm.
This is
Only thing I pay attention to is the speed limit right there.
You better, because there's always somebody waiting.
Petro.
45,
Petro's the
slow her
other.
down.
But it used to be Permian oil.
No, this is Petro.
Says the intent to annex, the intent is to annex in as commercial. Are they
Yes.
going to combine all those lots into a single lot at the same time?
I mean, if that's how you guys want them to go about it,
No, I was just curious what the intent was. Leave all the lots individual, but just push the, okay.
Just gonna bring out.
well, there is a, which I noticed they have buildings on it. There is an easement that runs right through this part of this property, a pipeline easement.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that pipeline has been abandoned and that's why they were able to build there. But again,
Okay. The staff recommendation to approve the annexation and the change to commercial zone. Stand for a motion for or against.
I make the motion that I make a motion for. You can fill in the rest of it to approve it.
We have a motion to approve the annexation of the tracks with the commercial zone. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Your turn, James.
Yes, sir.
No, actually, we're supposed to adjourn according to this.
It's non-action, it's just a discussion, lively discussion.
Lively discussion.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, so I went in and took the liberty of printing out the ordinance that we provided you guys last year, since we received the direction from City Commission to create a chapter for urban structure nuisances as well as billboards. I'd ask you guys to just kind of digest it, think about it. I know Member Rouser had provided you this other copy here as far as some additional signage considerations to incorporate into it, since we really don't have anything in this particular ordinance that specifically addresses signs. But I didn't know if anybody had the opportunity to look it over in the past month. If you guys had any comments that we could look at some language or some changes, omissions, additions.
I have a call from the last meeting if Main Street's been brought in on this yet.
Yes, sir. Main Street has been brought in. I actually, prior to presenting this to you guys, I had requested them to kind of look over it, and they are behind it as far as the concept. As far as any details, I haven't received any specifics if they would view any changes or additions. This ordinance is actually modeled after, I believe it was the Raton ordinance. Their Main Street program was behind this particular type of ordinance in their community as well.
In our last meeting, we discussed, I think the fact that you had a couple of different permits, billboard permits pending. Did y'all decide to hold off on those?
Did we have pending permits?
Yeah, you had two.
You had two.
For billboards?
Yes.
And they're still pending, correct?
One of them I haven't heard from in a while, the other is still pending. The other one, I think they pulled out of doing one in that location.
We don't have any within the downtown area, right?
No.
Okay. Were these for the stacked billboards, the really large ones?
Yes, this is the permits for another one of the big large ones.
Is there a reason why you chose not to take it all the way to commercial on Avenue D? Pretty much hit the rest of the
Because of the change in the type of structures. I mean, this was just a, as you can see, the description on the properties quite comprehensive. This is merely a draft, and yeah. So yeah, it doesn't go to commercial. I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay. Do you foresee it going that far?
I think that would really depend on this body as well as the commission. I think it could.
I just look at the way everything else is described. We go from R all the way down to Love, and then we go to 17, which
Yep.
makes sense that commercial would be the eastern edge of that.
Correct.
That's what I had in my notes, was to go all the way out to commercial.
Yeah, and whenever I was doing all this, it got a little weird trying to find the descriptions and with the software. I don't know if they had done an update since we. I don't know if it had. I didn't know if it had done an update yet with their EMAP system.
Oh, I know in one other James I had read where they described a dilapidated and commercial building property ordinance that they put in. They described it as being, they listed the road names, the road from this point to that point, and they said, you know, ending at such and such, all properties bordering the east and west sides of this road easement. That's how they described, instead of describing individual blocks like that.
And that's one way. I mean, if you look in the fire lanes, it actually just describes roadways. It doesn't go by block. I know that we had looked at it because we do have some properties that are further off Avenue D without a defining alley line. So that's one of the reasons why we actually had the block and lot numbers.
Yeah,
as
because
well.
when you get closer to 17, you have houses in there that are county and not city.
You just have that one house. The other businesses and all are in the city. It's just that one house on the very front.
And the middle one, the little middle one that's in the middle. That's
Oh,
county.
it's, well, it can't be used as a house no more. It can't be used as a house no more. It has no water or sewer.
Well, still.
No, actually, by code, it can't be no more.
So we need to really study this before the next meeting?
Definitely yes, and email your comments. We can incorporate that, and really, I don't think that, considering we haven't had any comment, I mean, if you would like for us to incorporate this or get feedback, we can bring back a beefed up draft of the ordinance. I'm sorry.
Beefed up?
Eternal structures.
Is that what I wrote?
Yeah.
Just take a look at my job. Look at my job description.
Surely
That's it.
heaven does not have zoning.
Yeah. Actually, it does. It's measured out. It's got zoning.
That just tickles me.
And all streets are made of gold.
Yes, they
It's a
are.
requirement.
But what we can do.
12 gates.
What we can do is definitely, if you guys like that, but definitely please get us our comment, and then we can just eventually get to the point to where there's a recommendation. We can send it back to commission for any commentary before they even take action, comments, suggestions, room for improvement. Since this is going to be one of those where we want to make sure that everybody is on board with it. We've had plenty of opportunity for public comment before we nail this out.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so we've got a lot of buildings that have, I used to call it wafer board, I guess it's OSB, you know, and they're in pretty shabby condition, you know, and when I was throwing out my suggestions, I was thinking that if people would put up material that was more attractive than just that, whatever that might be. Something that would be attractive for the building, even though you're shuttering it or closing it up. Is that an unfair request?
No.
Okay.
I believe we actually had, as far as maintenance,
Yeah, it was on maintenance.
Well, it was on paint. I saw that, but
in the original draft, in cases, it's actually on page, fourth page, item 7. It says that, you know, in cases of boarded up windows or doors, in all cases, plywood or other covering shall be cut to precisely fit entire window frame, not merely tacked over. Covering shall be painted a dark ashen gray or black to simulate a typical exterior window color or by some other color in keeping with the building facade.
I wasn't quite sure about if that's what.
Utilizing boards or other materials such as metal to secure broken windows or doors may only be used for no longer than 30 days, after which time the windows and doors must be repaired. So it's more than just slapping up, you know, a board. They do have to make it aesthetically pleasing.
Put a neon billboard up over.
XXX.
Wasn't thinking about that.
I went to New York in the 70s and went to Times Square, and that's all you saw. And everything was shuttered up.
So we're looking at incorporating the billboard piece into here, right?
And that's one thing that I need to talk to Patrick about, because we do have a sign ordinance that does need to be updated, but it falls outside of zoning. Now, as far as limiting or restricting placement on billboards, I think that falls under zoning because you're telling somebody what they can and can't do with their property. As far as the I think that might actually be addressed as just saying, you know, they're not allowed in this particular zone. As far as the requirements for maintenance and upkeep, I think that would just fall back under the sign ordinance, but I definitely want to use this body to help develop that.
Why would the sign ordinance fall outside of zoning? Rather than zoning?
It's not how it's written in the code. It's just
It's under streets.
it's under street signs and billboards. It's not in the zoning change. However, as far as where you can put the signs, as far as limiting it in a particular area, that would fall under zoning, as far as my interpretation is, because you are telling somebody, just, you know, like you can't put a carport there because it's not zoned correctly.
Okay.
But I know as far as what you provided, as far as, you know, maintaining and stuff, that can easily be placed in the updated sign ordinance or sign code for these certain standards.
Okay. So this is going to come back to us as an action item in September, correct?
If that's what you got, if everybody desires, we can have it on the table for some type of action to not, I wouldn't say do final approval, just some type of a preliminary approval, send it up to the commission, see what they think about it. And if they have any comments or suggested changes, we can bring that back for at the very next meeting, and if that's something that you guys recommend to go ahead and start the advertising process, then we'd bounce it back. So probably November before this would even be considered for advertisement and any type of publication.
So the next meeting will be on the 11th.
Yes.
Comments back to staff by the 29th. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, that'd be good.
So we would have
We're talking about the building, correct?
Yeah.
And you said building ordinance?
Building or even signs.
Building or signs.
And we'll bring back an updated version of our sign code as well,
okay.
with these suggestions here.
I did have a session on 17.50.040 maintenance on paragraph 7. Just right there towards the middle of it. It says that alley exposure shall be exempt from that being boarded up. Do we know why we're exempting?
No,
alleys?
that is meant to be, how I interpreted that is that they don't necessarily have to be painted.
Okay, they still have to be boarded
They
appropriately.
do have to be
They
boarded
still
and
have to be-
secured, right.
Okay. That's what I wanted to verify.
Okay. So we can get our comments back to staff by the 29th. That way they can give us the packet the week before. Get everything in. We can put the edits up there and finalize our draft for the commission on the 11th. Does that work for you, James?
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second. A motion and a second. All in favor?